Welcome to our 6th coaching video for vocabulary. Today's video is all about examining vocabulary inside of text. So let's get started. There are 6 ways to use context clues while we're examining vocabulary inside of a text. We have inside the word, outside the word in its original sentence, outside the word with surrounding sentences, the meaning, trying a meaning, and then seeing if that meaning makes sense. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each of these. The first one is inside. If you've heard me say this before, I always say that when we're looking at vocabulary, we need to start from the inside out. The inside is all the things that we can look at a word to see if we can guess its meaning. You're looking at parts of the word to see if it gives you any hints about the meaning. So here are some examples. You're going to be looking for compound words. You're going to be looking for prefixes that you know, suffixes that you know, and also any Greek or Latin roots. So let's go for an example for each of these. For the first one here, doghouse, that's obviously a compound word. Your students probably know what a dog is and what a house is, so they can combine those two and then realize that a doghouse is somewhere where a dog resides. The next one, rewrite. This is your common prefix of re, which we know means to do again. So then they could use that knowledge to know that the word rewrite means to write again. The next one is helpful. This is the suffix of full, which they probably know means to be full of. So helpful means to be full of help. And then the last one, hydroelectricity, that has a Greek root, hydro, which means water. So this word means to be electricity to be powered by water. Now, if your words don't have any of those special things that can help you find the meaning inside the word, then we go from the inside out. We're going to now look at the sentence that the word is in. You're going to read the sentence, find any hints as to the meaning of the word. Now, as we're doing this in our open court books and texts, sometimes the word can be found inside the sentence, like the word's meaning can be found inside the sentence, but sometimes it's pretty difficult. And we'll get into what we do in that situation a little bit later. If you're working with other read-aloud texts that are not part of open court, then again, you'll find the same thing, whereas some sentences do give you the meaning, and some you have to look further than just that sentence. So let's look at just the sentence. We're looking at the word remote here in this sentence, starting with the word some. Some neighborhoods have lots and lots of people in them, while others have only a small population, such as those on a remote island, in the country, or high up in the hills. Now that is a great sentence because it's chock full of information. If I was a student trying to figure out what remote meant, then I could look around that sentence and see what other hints there are. Now I can see small population, I could see island, I could see high up in the hills, or even country. Now, knowing those things, having that background knowledge already, I can say that remote means that it's far away. Now, if your sentence doesn't follow that and it doesn't give any hints, then you're going to move to the surrounding sentences. You're going to read the surrounding sentences and find any hints as to the meaning of the word. So let's take an example from open court. Here we're looking at the word nutritious. Now, if I would only read the sentence that has nutritious in it, I wouldn't get very far. Worms and other animals help make the soil more nutritious. Nothing in that sentence is going to help me know the meaning of nutritious. However, if I keep reading, then I'm going to get a little bit better clue. This makes the plant stronger. A healthier plant is better food for animals and people. So now I can start to look at those surrounding sentences and notice what nutrition might mean. I'm seeing words like healthier, stronger, and I'm thinking, okay, if a plant is more nutritious, then maybe it's healthier or maybe it's stronger. That leads us to our next part, which is meaning. There are actually 3 parts to this. First, you're going to ask yourself, What might the word mean? You're going to take a guess based on those context clues that we were just talking about. So that word nutritious, now I'm looking for, well, does it mean healthy or does it mean strong? Then I'm going to try the possible meaning in the sentence. So once I pick a synonym or something that's very similar to my meaning, then I'm going to try it and I'm going to substitute it inside of that sentence. Finally, after I've read it aloud or to myself, I'm going to ask, does this make sense? Can I plug in that word and does it still make the story make sense? So let's try that. We are looking for the word talents here. It's not highlighted because I think this one's from a 3rd grade text. Let's go ahead and read the whole purple box. It was a time of hope for people who came to Harlem. They wrote. They performed. They created art. Their talents and ideas were seen and heard. Okay, so I'm using that context clue of using the surrounding sentences, because if I just use the plain sentence that talents is seen in, I don't get much of an idea. So I'm going to use the surrounding sentences and I'm going to plug in art for talent. So let's see if this makes sense. Their art and ideas were seen and heard. Okay, that kind of makes sense, but I'm thinking as I'm reading this story that talent is more than just art. So let's try perform. Their perform and ideas were seen and heard. No, that one doesn't make sense. So now I'm going to start to think a little bit. Maybe I can think of a synonym for talents. So they're writing, they're performing, creating art. These are all things that people have as skills. So maybe I can try skills instead of art, or instead of talents. Their skills and ideas were seen and heard. Yes, that makes sense. Now it's not just one single thing like art, but it's lots of different types of skills. Now remember, you can examine vocabulary in text for more than just its meaning. We can use vocabulary to spark conversation in our classrooms. So in OpenCourt, there are 2 things that they generally do. First, they emphasize context clues. Have you seen that little yellow box that I put on those text slides that say, what clues or what hints do you see that help you know the meaning? That's usually what OpenCourt gives you. Now, sometimes you might be lucky and you get number 2, which sometimes they give you questions for the students to answer, including the vocabulary. This is mostly seen in 3rd grade. I'm not sure why they don't really do it in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd. Usually they rely on just those context clues, but in 3rd grade they start to question the students and have them really working with the vocabulary. So we're going to use the vocabulary to extend conversation, not only just to learn new words. Of course, it's important to teach your students how to recognize those context clues and how to work inside out of a vocabulary word, but it's also important to engage with the text and the vocabulary words to further conversation in your classroom. So here are some places to start. If you've gotten a slide that has that yellow box on the text slide and it says, what clues can you see to help you know the meaning? Know that you can change that. That's just what OpenCourt gives you, and I pull everything from the vocabulary routine right into the OpenCourt, right into the vocabulary presentations I make. But if you want to change that, that is totally up to you, or even if you want to do it for your whole team. Go ahead and do that because that's awesome. So here are some places that you can start instead of just looking at context clues. Have the student explain why. Have the student tell something that relates to the vocabulary word. Have students show an example with their body. Or have students report on what they've learned from the text. So the next 4 slides are examples of each of these. Now I've started to go through as I'm making my vocabulary presentations, and I've started to change some of these yellow boxes from what is the context clues or what are the clues that you see to more specific questions that relate to the story. So here's an example of why. My word is nutritious, and before it probably said what clues help you know the meaning of nutritious. Not very deep, right? So let's use this one instead. Why is it important for the soil to be nutritious? Now we're going back into the text, we're using that vocabulary word that we're learning, and we're explaining why it's happening in the story. Let's try another one. The next one is, telling something that's happening. So this one is for transfer. Tell some things that can happen during a seed transfer. So you're using that vocabulary word and you're using what you've learned through the text, excuse me, to help them understand what they're reading. The next one is showing an example with your body. Whenever you can get kids involved with emotion or some sort of thing that they're doing with their body, then it helps them to be engaged more. So for the word exhale, I have them show what breathing would look like, explaining when a person is exhaling. So they're showing what exhale looks like and the process of what that is doing. And then the last one was showing what they knew or what they learned from the story. And we are focusing on the word carbon dioxide. It says, using the text and the diagram, explain how carbon dioxide works with the seedling. So then they're going back into the text and they're using the diagram and the actual words to explain carbon dioxide. Again, if you don't like the question that's in the vocabulary slide or in the open court lessons, if it's just that plain what clues do you have and you want to dive a little bit deeper, then please change it. Make it more interactive. Here are a couple of suggestions. Use a prompting question. Have kids give a new word to plug in, so like those synonym things. Ask kids to tell what they've learned from the story. Make it a little bit more interactive and more conversational. So that brings us to the end of vocabulary coaching video number 6. As always, if you have any questions, any comments, or you'd like me to help you come up with some questions for the vocabulary to plug in for instead of context clues, then I'm very happy to do that with you. Just let me know. All right, I think that is it. I'll see you around.